Hi, welcome back. Going to look at Ableton's Impulse instrument today. Impulse is a virtual drum kit which features in Ableton, which you can drop into MIDI channels. So I've set up a song, a new song template in Ableton, and we've got a couple of MIDI channels which have dropped in automatically. So in order to use Impulse, you wanting to get one of your MIDI channels and then go to your instrument preset plugins down the left hand side, select instruments and then click on Impulse. Now there are two ways that you can use Impulse. The first way you can use Impulse is by clicking on the arrow and picking any of the preset drum templates that have been put in here for you to use, clicking on them and dragging them in. So if we click on Backbeat Room, which is a fairly standard rock drum kit, just click on it and drag it across into the channel, and there you can see it appears at the bottom. So now if you go in and click on a section of the track, you can actually set that up as a clip, and now you've opened up a section of clip to record into. You'll see that you've got all the parts of the drum kit down the left hand side, so you can go in here and click on certain sections of that and build up the kit. So you might want to start off by putting in a few beats for the kick, and then you might want to put a couple of beats on the second and fourth for the snare, and you might want to put some hi-hats in. Let's just do that. Take that off and duplicate those. I think that's about right. So you can see that you can start to build the kit up that way, and obviously if you click on that you can duplicate it, cut and paste that through the track for the song, and you can go into each individual section and you can build up even more in there. You've got a tom, you've got another snare that you could use, something like this. But you're really working within the preset template, and the sound that you have for it is reasonably limited, although you can go in here and then click on each of these individual instruments and actually change the parameters of it. So if you click on the kick section, you can go in, you can change the frequency and resonance, decay on it. Go into the snare, you can change the decay and the volume. So you can go in and just play around and get the feel that you want. But a far more versatile way of building a drum kit in Ableton using Impulse, and I'll just mute that for a second, is to actually have a section of the kit on individual channels. And so for this you're going to need to build up a number of MIDI channels and rename them for the different sections of the kit. So I'm going to call this the kick, and drop another one underneath. That's going to be the snare. Oops. Drop another one underneath. I'm going to cheat a little bit and put a second snare in. And then you might want some hi-hats. So you can see that you can build up each of the channels, and what this means is it gives you far more versatility on each of the individual sections of the kit, and you can really process it, produce it and add effects to it in the way that you want to kind of create a more diverse sound for your drum kit. So I've just obviously muted this now because we don't want that playing anymore. We are still going to be using Impulse, but rather than actually clicking on the arrows and going in and picking one of the presets here, if you just drag Impulse across, it actually just takes Impulse as an instrument template into that particular channel. So if you can see here, I've dropped an Impulse into the kick, and it's empty. There's nothing in there. That's because we haven't told Ableton what impulse sample we want it to have for the kick. And we'll do the same for the snare, and we'll do the same for the second snare, and we'll do the same for the hi-hats. So all of those, if we click on them, you'll see has got impulse in as an instrument. But we need to tell Ableton what impulse sound we want it to play back. And so for that, you need to go into the samples section. And I've been playing around with the sounds that you have for each of the component parts of a drum kit in Ableton. And there's a really good sound for the kick. You go into the search menu and type kick RTO. You can see, and you click and drag that across into there, into that first section. All you're really doing is you're emulating what's in this, because again, you've got the different parts of the kit in each of these different sections. So you could, if you wanted to, build your own impulse kit just using one channel, and you might drop the snare in there, a tom in there, a hi-hat in there. Do you see what I mean? And then it's going to look very similar to how it's set up in the preset template that you have in that first channel. But that again won't give you the versatility that you need to have each part of the drum kit on individual channels. So I'm only going to, for that reason, I'm only going to drop the kick RTO into that. But this is a cracking drum sound, the RTO sounds. And again, I'm just going to drop one of those onto the first and third beats. We're just going to concentrate on that first section. Actually, let's just put that in place and then loop that with that. So the next thing is the snare, and again I'm going to go into the instrument samples and search for snare RTO, and a couple of ones come up here, and I'm going to take the first one and drop that in snare 1, and I'm going to take the second one and drop that in snare 2. So you can see there that I've got a couple of different snare sounds there, and we can double them up and make that sound really nice. And then for the hats, again, just take that off. We've got all the samples here. If we remove those from the search bar at the top, you've got all the sample sounds down here. So, I mean, actually, if we typed in hi-hats here, we're going to bring them all up. I don't know if that will work. Yeah, we get some up. Perhaps not quite enough. I'm just going to drag down and see if we can find where they are. So here are all the hi-hats, loads of different sample sounds here. And you've got fundamentally with hi-hats, you've got a choice of either going for open hi-hats or closed hi-hats. So let's just have a play around, see if we can find one that's quite nice. Now, first one sounds quite good, doesn't it? So let's open that up and again drag that in. And I'm just going to make sure that for each of these channels, the volume's up to 0 decibels, just so we've got a bit of room there to play around with the volume. Don't really want it telling us the volume to begin with. There we go. Is that it all in? Yeah. Okay. So obviously then you can go into the next channel underneath and drop some snare. Again, you don't have anything here for these other sections because, as we were discussing, we haven't put any other samples in any of the other slots down here. So it is just going to give you that very one part of the drum kit that you've put on that channel, and this is the snare. So I'm going to drop a snare on the second and fourth beats. Let's just see how that sounds. Okay, it's just coming out, it's quite loud. Let's just turn the kick down. Just try that again. Help if I got the right channel. Okay. So with the second snare, I'm just going to put a slightly different beat in with that, just because. Let's just put it on the. Let's just try something like that. See if that works. And again, I'm just going to turn that down. Apologies if that came through quite loud. Let's just turn all of these down. It's going to be quite loud. So obviously coming out of the arrangement view, if you go into the session view and the mixer view, you can now individually pan each section. So I'm going to put the second snare panned off to the right and the other snare panned off to the left. Let's just see how that sounds. So, you know, you can play around with where you're positioning the sound and the beat, but you're starting to build the kit up. And then finally for the hi-hats, again, you go in, you've only got one slot that you can work with here because you haven't put anything else in any of the other slots in this particular Impulse instrument. You're literally just using it for the hi-hats. And again, you could go in and play around with those. Okay, let's just duplicate that. Okay. Something like the hi-hats, you might want to have them on the beat. And then, you know, you could even add further things in here. So you could add another MIDI track in down here, rename it, and put cymbals in, for example. And again, instruments, Impulse, you're into the sample section. And you're into the cymbals if you scroll down. All right, I'm going to put that big crashy one in. Oh, so again, select a section of the music. Open up and then drag it down here. Just have that probably on the off beat. Sorry, probably on the first beat of each bar. Not massively happy with the cymbal sound. I will probably go back in and change that, but that gives you an idea of how you can build up the kit. So, you know, you could put other parts of the kit in here. You could put in toms, for example. You could, I mean, we've got some closed hi-hats, I think, in there. You could put some open hi-hats in there as well. And you can put all sorts, lots of other things in, such as effects. So I hope that gives you an idea of how to use Impulse a little bit more creatively. In the next video, I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you how to apply individual production effects to each of those individual parts of the drum kit so that you can start to form have better control over the overall sound of your drum kit in Ableton using Impulse. So thanks very much for listening and watching. If you like the video, please like it, consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks very much.